Okay, hi. First of all, hello everyone, and this is my biggest apologies to the viewers of our lovely little live stream. It has not been possible today because today just happens to be one of those days where a server somewhere has gone down and it has rendered at least about 6 applications completely useless. So at this moment of recording, Facebook is down, Instagram is down, WhatsApp is down, and out of nowhere, StreamYard is down, which I never thought would be affected, but somehow is. So that's an issue. YouTube is working fine. It's just that we can't go live on StreamYard. So we're going back to the olden ways and the olden ways of recording this episode, like we did before we had some sort of subscription to a service that would let us stream. Tushar is not here today. I think he's caught up with another commitment. And if he does join us, he'll join us somewhere later on in the episode. And for those of you listening to this at a later date or on audio, we do this every Monday or Sunday on a live stream on YouTube. So we leave a link to our YouTube channel in the description. Do check us out if you want to see this episode live. It unfortunately didn't happen live today, but we've got a new format where we talk about the weekend's fixtures. We'll also address comments while we do in a chat that goes on YouTube. So we'll do all of that and much more on these weekly episodes. But for now, let's get started. Is anyone having audio issues or are we good?
No, we're good.
We're good, right? Fine. Cool. This is for the audio people, so you know where our intro is about to kick in. It's been a while since the audio podcast went up live. Okay, so gentlemen, hello, hi, how are you? How's the weekend coming? How was your weekend?
All good. Some exciting fixtures to talk about, which we'll get to in due time.
Yeah, let's.
Honestly, this is the second weekend.
Right into it.
Sorry, Sid.
No, I was just saying, this has been a second week in a row where the first game has been pathetic and the last game has been exciting.
Yeah. What was the last game of the weekend last time was Liverpool Brentford.
Last time was the
Liverpool Brentford.
Yeah, exactly.
And the first game was also really shit.
Let's actually do.
Let's start from the highs and then we go down to the lows.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's some quick breaking news. Watford have sacked their manager Xisco Munoz. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. And now have appointed Claudio Ranieri. Ranieri is back in the Prem. Always a nice figure to have in and around the Premier League. I love his press conferences. I love that energy he brings. And I think he's going to help Watford be a little more resolute in defense because they seem to be leaking goals all over the place. They don't look like a bad team. It's just that they, in defense, they're not exactly doing much. And if Musa Sissoko is your outlet for creative attacking play, along with Ismail Assar, who's doing most of the runs, our little Sadio Mane, as we like to call him. And he's been barring those two, I can't quite think of enough quality in that team. Troy Deeney is also gone, so it's going to be exciting to see Ranieri back and see what he does with that team. Hopefully, he sticks around for a while because Watford have a reputation of sacking managers by the dozen. Exactly. So it's like the Chelsea model if it didn't work. So. And that's basically what it is. But yeah. Any thoughts on Ranieri back in the Prem before we move on to the weekend's fixtures?
Absolutely love it. I mean, that man didn't deserve to get sacked from Leicester when he did. I thought that was one of the most rubbish sackings that I've ever seen a club do. I know they're one of the better run clubs, but to sack him immediately after winning the Premier League was preposterous. Stupid. If you ask me.
Yeah.
It
did not see that coming at all.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know what to say, and the fact that he didn't get any other job after that, it was even more surprising. So hopefully Watford hang on to him. I mean, like, give him at least 2-3 years because Ranieri is he's not a big Sam. He doesn't come and do a 6-month job or or just keep people up. I mean, keep teams up. He's somebody who comes and changes the entire philosophy of the club. So I think hopefully, I mean, knowing Watford, they'll probably sack him next week or next month. But if they persist with him, I'm sure they can become. I mean, if you look at it, Leicester were nowhere before. I mean, Nigel Pearson just managed to keep them up the season before, and Ranieri has put the building blocks, or rather, he started the foundation to where Leicester are today. I mean, let's face it, Leicester are part of the big six. I mean, if not the big six, they're definitely in the top seven clubs in the EPL at the moment.
For sure.
And Ranieri set up those building blocks. So I'm sure if Watford persist with him for a couple of years, they could become a permanent fixture in the Premier League. I'm not saying they're going to be here all the time, but they could become another Newcastle or something, who are there for maybe 4, 5, 6 years, 1 year slip up and then come back again. So yeah, I think it's a really good. If you ask me, I think it's a really good appointment. Let's see how Watford treat him. That's the key.
Yeah, I don't know if he
I
gets.
was just going through his managerial history as well, and I didn't see anywhere that he stayed for more than 2 years, apart from his time at Chelsea back in 2000.
The Chelsea, even that sacking was pretty ridiculous, if you ask me, because again, he set up the building blocks. He was the one who got through Lampard, Terry.
I think Duff was also there at the time, right?
So I don't know if he's one of the managers that takes them to the top and just gets sacked, like any team.
No, that I think that's a conversation we're about to have later on in the episode about a certain team, but we'll talk about it. But in terms of, I think it's a good appointment. It's always nice, like I said, it's always nice to see him back in the Prem. And let's see what he does again, because I doubt Watford are going to Prem title charge, but it should be fun. Speaking of title charges, yesterday saw one of the great games of the season so far. Liverpool took on Man City at Anfield, and for a large chunk of that game, Man City were absolutely throttling Liverpool, like step on your neck throttling. It was crazy just how out of shape Liverpool looked. But it only takes a moment, or as we like to call it as United fans, no tactics, just vibes. So what happened is, because Liverpool, look, I'm telling you, I don't know what Liverpool's tactics yesterday were. It was basically give it to Mane and Salah and hope to God something happens. And both the times it went to Salah, and Salah plays a beautiful pass to Mane. Mane slots it in, makes it 2-1. 1-0. And then and then Foden, like, there's a beautiful City move where they cut through Liverpool like a hot knife through butter, and Foden slots it in, makes it 1-1. And then Mohamed Salah, one of the most underrated players in the Premier League. Like, we have to give credit where credit is due.
Yeah, definitely.
Man is
I think he's the best. I think he's the best player in the world at this moment.
I agree. I
People
fully
are just
agree.
talking about Ronaldo and Messi, but here you have Salah doing Salah things and nobody's giving a damn.
I think he's better than Mbappe, Neymar, Lewandowski at this moment in time. I would put him. I mean, Ronaldo and Messi are in a league of their own. But at this moment, I think Salah is better than both of them. At this moment.
Correct. Yeah. I totally agree.
Yeah, I think he was just that for that second goal. It was, oh man, it was just gorgeous.
Really
like, he takes on 3 defenders, spins one, cuts inside, and launches.
That angle was really acute from where he hit it, man.
Yeah,
the pace was what helped. I mean, the pace really didn't do Ederson any help.
Very
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
because the pace is what took it past him. Because he was at a very acute angle. This is what
It sort of looked
honestly,
like
when he first got the ball, I thought he's going to cut. He's
cut
going to
back
take
in.
it on his left foot
Yeah.
and do the whole Chelsea goal that if you remember
Yeah.
about 2-3 seasons ago, which he scored against. I thought that's what he's going to do, but then he cut back in, and I'm like, wait, where's he going? When he struck it, I thought it was too acute an angle. I thought the goalkeeper was going to stop it, but the pace with which he struck it, there was no chance for the goalkeeper.
I was watching a presentation at that point, and because that Sunday morning, so the whole thing I'll explain later. But I was watching a presentation, and then I was, and the presentation was it was happening. I was watching this game on mute, and I saw Salah do what he did, and I went. Then I had to check if my mic was off and all of that, because it was just visibly gasping, but luckily it was all good. Oh man, it was a phenomenal goal. And then you go back the other end, and for a second I was like, wow, that is the goal of the game. As much as even though Salah's goal was great, that was the goal of the game, because Kevin De Bruyne gets the ball in the edge of the box and whips it, and I'm like, oh shit. Alisson had no chance, that, and then you realize there's a massive deflection that takes it in a completely different direction to where Alisson is jumping. And if Alisson had I think Alisson would have gotten to the ball had it stayed on the same trajectory, because it seemed to be in his path. Pep
again has an unlucky deflection.
Yeah, Pep has a right to feel aggrieved in this game, because Milner should have been off even before the Salah goal happened for a second yellow. He commits a blatant second yellow, but the standard of refereeing this last week has been a little strange. Kevin De Bruyne against PSG comes to mind, which is worse than the Wan-Bissaka tackle that happened a week or so ago, more than 10 days ago. And he stayed on the pitch. No yellow. He got a yellow card, I think, max.
I don't think he got a card. I don't know, actually. I didn't.
Oh, he got a card.
But Liverpool so far, coming back to the point, Liverpool are unbeaten. They're still, I think they're second, and Chelsea are first.
Yeah.
So City look good. I think the lack of a striker is usually would cause them to win. Is causing them to not win these games. I think if City had a striker yesterday, they would have won that game by a country mile. They were by far the best team. Pep has tactically outdone two of his biggest rivals in the space of a week. He really did Tommy Tuchel last week, and now he's done Jurgen. So that happened, and now let's talk about title aspirations.
Just wanted to add for this game. I just wanted to give credit to Rodri for his game-saving.
Block. What a tackle!
Yeah, what a block of the shot of Fabinho. I thought it was in and game was over, but I was definitely wrong. Just came out of nowhere, slid through, and that was beautiful.
He just flew, and there was, I don't know where he popped out of, but he was there, and I was like, oh shit, Fabinho, and and then Rodri just comes this flying Spanishman, and boom, Spaniard, fucking idiot. It's early. It's not early. It's a mid-Monday. I apologize. Where I am.
I think the three main takeaways from this game, I think Pep has this. I mean, I know 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I said it's Chelsea's title to lose. I still believe it probably is Chelsea's title to lose, and only because I think they have a much more well-rounded team. But having watched last night's game, I think we actually watched the two main protagonists in last night's game for the title. I mean, barring some really untoward results during the AFCON, if Liverpool managed to stay where they are, I think they would be the main protagonists to City. And the way City played yesterday, if City had signed either of Kane or Ronaldo, I mean, they were both. I mean, they were in for both of them. I think if they had signed either one of them, this title would have been wrapped up by Christmas. I I don't. I mean, if they sign Kane in January and there's say maybe 2 points or 3 points off the top, the title will be over by April. I'm not even. I wouldn't even be surprised if by mid-April they sort of stitch up the Premier League and then concentrate on the Champions League if they're still there at the time. But that was one takeaway. They were massively missing a striker. I think the second takeaway is as much as you you sort of praise Klopp, I think when he plays against big teams, he still, if you look at it, even against Chelsea, he was really outdone. He was properly outdone by Tuchel. Again, against Pep yesterday, he had no answers whatsoever. Like tactically, I mean, like you said, it was 2 moments of brilliance by the best player in the world right now, and that's sort of what helped his team get a point. But he was totally outclassed, and even against Tuchel, he was outclassed. Let's not hide behind that fact. So, as much as we praise Klopp to be a really good manager, sometimes in the bigger games he does not have that tactical nous that Pep or Tuchel have. And that's sort of what I realized yesterday, because I mean, having watched Ole, like you said, I mean, we'll get to him later, but Klopp, and the thing about Klopp against smaller teams is because of his high press, I think the smaller teams, it's easier for them to play against the smaller teams. But when the other team has a better possession, Klopp is not able to figure out how to play against those teams. So I still think that there is one weakness in his armor in his Arsenal, sorry, that the other teams can sort of. I think if they come up against Bayern in the Champions League, I don't see them beating Bayern, because they're very
we say
similar
this
in the
we say this on a weekend where Bayern have lost to Frankfurt. So
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I know, but see, there are always those one-off results, right? City lost to Spurs as well, so PSG lost to
Rennes.
Rennes.
Okay,
Rennes.
yeah, so there's always one-off results. But anyway, let's see what happens.
When an Arsenal fan,
And the
it's not
last
a
point I
one-off
wanted to
result.
talk about, I think Pep has every right to have a go at the refs, because Milner should have been sent off not once but twice. I think he should have been yellow carded at least 4 times in that game, if you ask me. I think the referee bottled it. I know they're playing at Anfield. I know the crowd's on his back, but I think Milner should have easily been yellow carded 4 times.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
he was getting.
He
I think
he wasn't able to cope up with
that
he
three
just wasn't.
that 3 on the other end, Cancelo, Grealish, and
Foden.
who was
Foden.
Foden was
Yeah.
just ripping him to shreds. And I mean, you can't expect Milner at the age
The
that he is to.
Foden goal also was because
It came on
Milner
his
was
side.
nowhere to be seen. Milner was nowhere
It
to
came
be
on
seen.
Milner only, yeah.
So it's like
Milner was nowhere in sight when Foden took that shot, was he?
Exactly. No, he wasn't. The ball just went past him and he couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah, so it's like
you can see, you can play Milner against a Burnley or a Norwich. You cannot play him against probably the best side in the Premier League at the moment, right? Like,
yeah, you can't.
He had to start Joe Gomez. I don't know what Klopp was thinking when he played Milner there. Milner's what, 36, 37?
30.
He could have easily played Tsimikas over there as well, for all we know. Even though
He could have played because Tsimikas is a right footer, right?
But he's but he plays left back.
Yeah, he is a right footer. He plays left back, but he's a right footer left back.
But he's a right footer. So he could have easily played him there. I'm sure he would have done a much better job in breathing down Foden's neck than what Milner did.
So I'm like, how do I put this? It's going to be interesting to see City in the next couple of weeks, because their games pick up. They have an easy set of fixtures from here on end.
See, the fact that City got 4 points at the Bridge and at Anfield, I think, and you put the PSG game in between. I mean, I know they lost the game, but I think the fact that they navigated this tough set of fixtures and they've come out sort of rather unscathed. I think 4 points are from Anfield and the Bridge. I think every manager would bite your hand off for that. So
Yeah.
And now I think they have a run of very easy fixtures. So
yeah, so it's just like they play like the small to the mid-sized teams right now. So your West Hams and your so just go on mute for a sec, please.
I just want to add, I think the only banana peel that they probably will have is United, because let's face it, United's the only, I mean, Pep has found Ole to be I know it's ironic to say that, but Pep has found Ole to be the hardest manager to play since Ole has taken over. So let's see how that goes in, I think, about 4 game weeks time.
Yeah, I think 4 weeks time.
Yeah, 4 weeks.
Okay, why we don't? I mean, we'll get to United. Akshay, can you pull up their fixtures in the meantime, because
whose fixtures?
United's fixtures, and we'll keep it ready on the side whenever we address it.
I'll put it up.
Speaking of strikers that should have joined clubs, Harry Kane still looks extremely out of place at Tottenham. He scored a hat-trick midweek against Moura, or as a Tottenham YouTuber calls it, Lucas Moura's relatives. So it's like they beat them 5-1. But
he came off the bench and scored
a hat-trick. Yeah. So the goal for scoring form is just that he looks completely out of place in at Spurs right now, and it looks like Son has now become the main man. Son is what Tottenham are driving their attack through, and it's going to be interesting to see how how Kane's form picks up, because we're in October, he still hasn't scored in the league, so it's not the best situation for him at the moment.
Son had an XG of 3.26 against Villa.
Wow. Sonaldo, Son Perignon, Son Heung Messi. So I think Spurs beating Villa was, for me, was the surprise result of the week, because we picked them to go down. We picked them to lose to them. Brentford pulled a massive upset at West Ham, a 94th minute winner from Yohan Wissa. And you could see like the dismay in the crowd behind him, because it goes off. It's in front of the West Ham fans, and as it hits, you can see Wissa celebrating with the fans on the right, and like droves of West Ham fans leaving the stadium. That's a sickening way to lose a game. That's a really sickening way to lose a game.
Basically from the last kick of the
I mean, I didn't watch that game. I was actually watching the Spurs Villa game. I thought that was a really open game, both teams going for it. I thought defensively, I thought Villa were really good. I mean, maybe it was 2 laps of concentration that sort of led to the Spurs goals, and Villa had a buttload of chances themselves. I mean, there were many times where they just cut through and such ease. I thought Watkins had a really good game. I think I like the system Dean Smith's playing with the 2 up top. Watkins and Ings. I think Villa finish. I'm pretty certain Villa finish in the top half. It's just a question of where in the top half.
I think they do 8th. They do 7th or 8th. The way they are going.
They definitely finish in the top half.
Quite good. Yeah.
This is there are so many players in that team that would walk into first teams in the top 6. So
speaking of top half, what about the team that we all predicted would finish? Some of us predicted they'll finish 5th is Leicester. I mean, they have not gotten off the blocks at all.
They look hungover from last season. It's just not working out for them. Certain situations, penalty calls have been gone against them. They're having some real bad luck. They have one win so far.
Hangover from 1 season or 2 seasons?
I mean, last season they won the FA Cup, so
Yeah.
so you can't really say there's
They've
a hangover.
just
No,
putting it
but
out,
like
they've had two wins so
they
far.
top 4 on the last day, losing top 4 on the last day in both seasons must have sort of it. They were proper gut punches, right? Like,
Yeah.
I
I know
wouldn't.
winning the FA Cup.
Yeah, I would test Yuri Tielemans' resolve in January if I were any of the other clubs, because that's I don't think he's going to stick around for longer if things stay the same.
And they also lost midweek in the Europa. So it's just been loss, draw. So that
it's not looking good. And I think now
they have only one win this season. Correct me if I'm wrong.
They won twice.
They won yesterday as well, right? No, 2 days ago.
No, they won.
No, they drew.
No,
2-2.
They drew.
They drew to Palace 2-2.
They beat Norwich.
Yeah.
They beat
and
Norwich.
They beat Leicester. And they beat Wolves.
Oh, okay.
On opening day.
Wolves also looking good. Wang Yi-chan and Jimenez is tracking up a combination. So that's something for us to keep an eye out when it comes to FPL later on.
Mm-hmm.
Who else do we have to address? Let's do Chelsea. Let's do Arsenal, Brighton.
Arsenal, Brighton.
I don't watch the game.
Yeah,
that was the late game on Saturday, right?
It was the late
kickoff.
It was the late kickoff, and
Brighton were just attacking.
Brighton or Arsenal?
Brighton
should
have won the game.
Really good. They should have won the game, exactly.
Brighton, like,
but Ramsdale made a few good saves actually to keep them in the game.
When players come into the league, there's that one game which is Welcome to the Premier League. That was the game for Tomiyasu, because he came in and he was getting absolutely roasted by Mark Cucurella. I think the guy who looks like Guendouzi and Hugh Wizzy combined. So he's just so he was like absolutely ripping Tomiyasu to shreds. Tomiyasu couldn't get near him. Okay,
but he was nowhere near.
Yeah, and then it's just so happens that there's the ball just wouldn't go in the net. There was this one wonderful save Ramsdale gets to before Mope is about to put it into the net, and
off the bar.
Off the bar. But Arsenal's forward line, Aubameyang, Odegaard, all didn't have very good games. Arsenal are getting better little by little. We spoke about them against Spurs where they ripped them to shreds, but that's more on Spurs than it was on Arsenal. Arsenal just did the basics right. Spurs couldn't get out. They looked like a deer in headlights for most of that game.
But they had a few good chances which they should have easily converted.
They definitely should have.
ESR had a really good chance where he should have passed it to Aubameyang, but he took a shot and
it only worked out like that. Result was great for my FPL weekend because I had Tomiyasu and I had Sanchez, and we both got 6 points. So was the only saving grace.
I made a mistake there. I thought Arsenal were going to score and I benched Sanchez.
Arsenal and Brighton is always a very tricky fixture. But okay, let's quickly talk about Chelsea Saints. See, I predicted Saints to give Chelsea trouble in this game last week, and they gave them a lot of trouble. There was a sending off in this game which made zero sense, and I still maintain that it was he gets the ball, he hits him on the ankle, and the more they slowed it down, the more worse it looked, because in real time it happened. It's fine, it's a yellow card at the most. And then the moment that decision was made, Ward-Prowse gets sent off, Chelsea are on the ascendancy, Timo Werner scores. There was a goal that he scored which was ruled off for another absurd reason, because they pulled it back a fair amount till a foul was committed, and then they disallowed that goal. But it was good to see Werner get back in the charts. Then Chilwell, then this ball from Azpilicueta. Both of you fuckers who have Azpilicueta. And pings off the post, falls to Chilwell. He whacks it in, and then it crosses the line. So it's 3-1.
It didn't go off the post, I think.
No, it went. It was across the line basically. And but Chelsea looked like they're wobbling.
The game changed because of that red card.
Yeah. Chelsea looks like they're wobbling because I mean, any team that does not have N'Golo Kante that has had them in the past will suffer without him. Ross
Yeah.
Barkley and Ruben Loftus-Cheek aren't great at what do you call replacements. But if you were to look at the problems up front with Lukaku, there's just nobody creating enough for him. He's not doing
He's not doing.
it
what
just
he
looks
should not be
looks
doing,
like
yeah.
2018 2019 Lukaku. If you're a United fan, you know what that looks like. It is the exact same problem.
Which I'm really happy about, being a United fan.
No, you know what?
See.
Like, I feel.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Look, I think even when we played Saints, they posed a lot of problems for us. I'm not saying we are as good as Chelsea, but like Ben said in our in our FPL episode, where he said Saints are going to give a bit of a problem to Chelsea. I thought they'll be sort of resistant, but the fact when Chalobah scored in within the first
8th or 9th
10 minutes,
Ninth
8th or 9th,
Ninth.
the first 10 minutes, I thought this is going to be one-way traffic. And the more I watched the game, the more the Saints got into the game, and after they got a little warmed up, I thought they gave a good account of themselves. Like, I mean, the 1-1 was truly deserved, if you ask me. And I don't think on the balance of play, I think that was a fair result until the captain got sent off. So at the end, I guess Chelsea got lucky.
Had Ward-Prowse not gotten sent off, I think it would have ended in a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, I think it would have stayed 1. I think it would have stayed 1-1.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate that he got sent off.
Yeah,
and everything looks worse in slow motion. So the more they
I really think they should stop this whole slow motion nonsense, because the more you slow it down, like Ben said, the worse it looks. And trust me, I mean, I play football every weekend, right? And every weekend there is one of these tackles that happens, and it happens by mistake. I do it; it's done on me. It just happens. You cannot stop somebody who's trying to get the ball off of somebody else to do it in a very careful manner, like without touching their feet or all of that. Like, you are, I mean, these guys are paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? And they have to give their 100%. And I'm pretty sure that tackle was not malicious in any which way. Like, he just got the ball, and then after that he hit the leg. But it happens many times. It happened because it's the follow through. But there was no there was no malicious intent in that, right? They really need to slow it down. I mean, they really need to stop slowing it down and then just play it at real time and see, okay, in real time, was there any malicious intent? And if it wasn't there, just move on. Like, stop with the whole yellow card, red card nonsense. I mean, it's absurd.
Shall we move on to the final elephant and the biggest elephant in the room, the final topic of our day?
Yeah.
Okay, so beautiful United once again kicked off the Premier League fixtures midweek. And hold on just a second, I think. Intro, actually take this over, like sit, intro it, I'll just be back.
Okay, so like the week before, United start off. Honestly, speaking of United, let's speak about the game in its totality. United started off really well, had quite a few chances in the first half. Not to say that that they were completely dominant, but they had quite a few chances, and Everton had a few chances themselves, right? Like Everton, there was one chance for Damari Gray, and that was a good save by De Gea. And the first half, I think United, United should have had a goal at least in the first half for all their dominance.
Marshall scored, right? just at the
Yeah,
brink
for
of
all the
half.
dominance they
Yeah.
should have. And then finally Martial scored. He broke the deadlock
That was a
at
great
the
goal,
end of
by
the
the way.
first half. It was a
Yeah.
great goal, great finish. I think there was a slight deflection, but he deserved that goal more than anything.
But
And
he was
needed
ass all
that goal.
game. I'm going to be
I mean,
perfectly
he
honest.
needed that goal. I won't say he deserved the goal. He
Hmm.
needed that goal maybe to boost his confidence
back
at least a
into it.
little bit. Yeah,
Back
because
into
I
it.
think
Yeah,
Rashford's going to be back from next week by the looks of it. So I was just reading today that every injury that he had in his body last year, shoulder, whatever, leg,
Ankle.
all
ankle, etc., all of that has
back
been
in
healed.
shape.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So I don't see. I mean, we are not even in the Carabao Cup, so I don't see Martial playing unless there's other injuries. I don't see him playing until maybe January when the FA Cup starts. Maybe he'll be sold in January. Who knows? But anyhow,
I would sell Martial for a number 6. He's occupying.
Honestly, I would sell him at this point, like Declan Rice and maybe 50 grand plus Martial.
I just at this point I look at Elanga. Elanga is better than him, which is like
Elanga is better than him.
Which is like a sad truth. But it's just there was a point in the game. I don't know if Bruno like hits a pass to Martial and he overhits it. Martial just stands there and Bruno runs past him. Bruno beats him to the pass, which is mind-boggling. I'm like, dude. Also, we need to talk about McFred or Fred generally. Fred, I thought was having a good game.
Pretty decent game. I thought he had a decent game. I honestly, you know what? Apart from that mistake that he did that cost us the goal, I thought he had a very decent game. I don't want to slander him unnecessarily. I think he gets too much slack. From me, I mean, even me personally, I give him a lot of stick. But I think yesterday he had 2 chances. I mean, just professional foul, pull him back, finish it, take the card and move on. Like, come on, Fred. I mean, I do that in a friendly game on a I do that in a friendly game. Like I pull like people I know it's called professional fouls, but I do that in a friendly game as well. Like when I know I've let go somebody, I just pull his shirt and I was like, take the foul, right? But these guys, he is a professional. Just pull the bloody shirt or foul him, make him fall, do something. He had 2 chances at winning the ball, let alone fouling him, and he had to. Oh, come on, Fred, you got to do better than that. Like, I want him to succeed at United, but he just gives me more and more reasons not to like him. You know,
at this point,
he always comes up for us in the bigger games. No,
at this point, I would take a Fred Donny midfield because it's or even a Donny Matic. I think our best midfield is a Donny Matic midfield because it's just that Matic doesn't have the legs. Because whenever Matic comes on, you can see the quality and like jump up when it comes to play.
I still think our best midfield is Matic Pogba. Nothing beats Matic Pogba. If you play Matic Pogba in a 2, right? I know Matic doesn't have the legs and Pogba doesn't track, but you play Matic Pogba in a 2. I do not, because I think it was 3 games ago where Matic started with, who was it alongside him? I don't know who it was.
West Ham.
Donny.
In the West Ham game.
Yeah,
the Carabao game.
Dominated that
the West Ham
game.
loss.
Game.
So I mean, just play like I don't know what Solskjaer's problem with Van de Beek is. He keeps saying we want him to do these things, He does. I mean, he's not exceptional whenever he plays, but he's no better than. We're still losing these games. We're still dropping points because of Fred and McTominay. Just might as well, like if you're still going to have the same outcome anyway, might as well try something new.
And it also brings down his morale. Like
it's just like
he's not
dude.
He's not chosen for his international.
He's not chosen for his national team. Yeah, how sad is that?
That's really sad. And such a good player missing out on his international team just because of what's happening to him at his club. It's really sad.
It's not. I mean,
is he really that bad at training? I mean, I really want to know what is like, how is he not getting selected when you're seeing such shit performances from McFred? I mean, I'm not saying that.
Is it an Ajax problem? Because I've noticed Ziyech is also not really anywhere has lived up to the heights that he was when he was at Ajax. Frankie De Jong Frankie De Jong looks good he's the only player that looks good in the Barcelona outfit, but once again, getting completely outrun. Matthias de Ligt he's kind of the whole aura around him has shifted. He no longer, I may not be paying attention to Serie A, so I can't quite tell. So what is happening here? Like, what are the issues?
I think maybe it's the speed of the game. I think in Dutch football it's much more slower, much more tactical, much more one touch. Because when you watch Donny play, right, he plays one touch football. Like he never Max is two touch football. He never carries the ball.
Yeah.
If you see him, he's just receiving, looking right, left, and just passing. He's never holding the ball. He's never taking the ball on Bruno. None of those things. It's just you give me the ball, I'll give it back to you. Give me the ball, I'll play it square, or I'll try to play it forward if I can. But I mean, that works for a team like City, but I don't think it works for a team like United. So
it doesn't.
That's the reason he's not playing him that's the reason he's not playing him. So, but either way, like Ben said, you might as well give it a go. If it works, you'll come off as a genius. If it doesn't, nobody's going to slag you for that, because at least you've tried. So,
so where are we with regards to the manager? What's happening?
No, I've never been one to say sack the manager, and I'm not going to start now. I still give him till the end of the season. And like we said, like we said at the start of the episode about Ranieri being the bridge between being good and being great, I think Solskjaer has done that job of bridging what Moyes, Van Gaal, and Mourinho did. Or no, like what they did, he sort of undone what they've did, and now he set a platform for. I mean, if he can improve to the next level, or they bring in somebody to the next level, because he's got rid of so much of deadwood. He's got these players wanting to play for United, and he's got a team that is set up to win in the next 1 or 2 years. It's just a matter of getting. I think we're missing one player, and we're missing some level of tactical nous to get this team across the finish line. I think all the ingredients are there. It's like everything's there. All you're missing is salt, and when you're cooking something, all you're missing is salt. The moment you get that salt, and the dish comes together, and that's where we are at this point. That's what I think. But I don't know what you all think.
I feel if the results stay the same for the next couple of game weeks, because actually we can pull up the fixtures for the next few weeks.
It's going to be a tough run of fixtures coming up for us.
Are you guys still like? I mean, would you still fire him?
I wouldn't.
Okay, assume he draws 4 out of the next 6 fixtures, right? We know what the fixtures are. They're the very difficult fixtures. Say he drops massive number of points. Let's say he drops 6 to 7 points in the next probably 21 points that are up for grabs. He drops 7 points. Are you guys Ole in or Ole out? It's very simple.
I will stick with him because I know the. Hold on. Sid, go on mute for a second. So I will still stick with him because one, the alternatives, none of them appeal to me. Which is, let's be extremely honest. Everyone wants Conte. He is the worst decision that could happen to the club. It is
never want him here. Yeah.
Never, just don't do this to yourself, because if it happens,
it's a train wreck waiting to happen. I mean, it's going to become a state of 1 step forward, 2 steps back with Conte.
Yeah, it's just I'd much rather not go anywhere near him, because he's going to riddle the squad with deadwood. You don't want that. Erik ten Hag will not come. Not with, and then if he comes a jump from Eredivisie to United, they'll want him out in 4 months.
I don't think
Zidane is not interested. He will not come. Poch is an interesting candidate, but if he has an issue where at PSG where 4 of his players are not tracking back, and now
And
teams are
we
like,
did
you can,
discuss this at length.
yeah, and
Initially as well.
at
Yeah.
United, Ronaldo doesn't track back. Bruno tracks back, yes. Pogba is not very good defensively. We're a team of superstars, and we need that balance has to be found. And unfortunately for us, McFred is the answer to the balance at this point. It may not be a great answer, but it is the most acceptable answer when it comes to giving us balance in midfield. We've all spoken about the Donny Matic, the Matic Pogba situation, but Matic is old. He can't play 38, 60 games a season.
He can't.
But what's going to happen now if they don't address the number 6 issue in January? Then Solskjaer will not last the season, because I think he could go if they don't get out of the group, and that's a very strong possibility. The way they're playing, Atlanta, they have a double header against Atlanta coming up in the next couple of weeks. If he doesn't take 6 points out of those games, then they're in trouble, because they need to go, or at least 4. Because if he wins the home game and draws away, then it puts United at 7 points. Young boys at home is something they should be able to beat. And Villarreal, look, from what we see, we are able. Emery will beat himself, like he did on last week. So it's just, if he doesn't get through the Champions League group with the team that he currently has, I don't quite see how he stays in the job, because the team is good, and I don't want him out. I feel a run is coming. Like, we're at that point of the season where he's under pressure, things are going bad, like everything looks bleak. A run is coming.
He normally does well when he's under pressure.
He's asked for time, saying we've got Ronaldo in September. Sancho looks so much better. I thought Sancho's best game for us was.
I was about to bring that up. Yeah. I thought Sancho had his best game for United so far this season. I think
should have scored. Really should have scored.
Should have scored. He fluffed that shot. He should have scored, but I thought he had his. I think another month, I think he should get up to speed. Plus, with Rashford coming back, I think that's going to help Sancho even more, because that sort of takes away the pressure from Sancho some more, and he can play those 20-minute, 25-minute cameos, get up to speed a little bit more, and then after that, he can then switch over to the right if Greenwood's having some. But Greenwood, so far this season, Greenwood has been the player of the season. I thought
but he needs to pass. Sometimes he needs to pass.
He does need to pass.
He's got to pass. I mean, his one shot, one goal.
Yeah, like there are points. I'm like, listen, just look up and pass. The angle is. I know you will score one. You will get your shot. Just bloody pass the ball.
I think the last point that I want to make, Ronaldo has never been one to track back.
He's not going to track back either.
No, not in 2007, not in 2017, and if he plays till 2027, I don't see him tracking back in 2027 either. So
he probably won't have the energy in 2022.
No, forget energy. When he had the energy as a 20-year-old kid, he didn't track back. So let's not fool ourselves into thinking he's going to track back. So
he's never going to track back.
The fact that United had to play Tevez, Rooney, Park during the 2008 season was because Ronaldo doesn't track back, right? And Ole has to figure something out, and has to figure something out really, really fast. Either a formation change where he plays a 4-4-2 diamond in midfield with Ronaldo and Cavani, because Cavani, let's face it, is a beast.
Pressing unit.
He closes down.
He's so good.
He is a workhorse. So you play a 4-4-2 diamond in midfield, akin to the AC Milan of the old. And your midfield 4 has to be what? Like, you play, maybe you have to play Bruno, of course. You play Pogba on the left of that left. I don't know who you play on the right, and you'll have to play Matic as a sitter. Maybe you can try Donny on the right and then see how it works. Like, something has to give, because anyway, either way, Wan-Bissaka and Shaw are providing the width. So
But they will get
Something.
absolutely murdered in midfield because Pogba doesn't track with Pogba defensively. Bruno's playing as a third striker half the time. So it's like,
Not half the time, I think all the time.
he's just playing. I'm like, sometimes it's like, bro, come back a little bit. You control the game from deep. Just come back a little bit. Don't like you. There's no.
But he comes back
But-
like very quickly to come back. That's
Oh,
really.
No,
that's something that
no
other
one.
players
I
should
mean, we're
learn.
not because the result has overshadowed it. The control for the goal he sets up, Martial for.
Oh wow!
Oh, that was beautiful.
It's like
That
it's
was
wonderful.
beautiful. That touch was really.
That was a moment of magic.
But yeah, I think that should be that for this week's episode. Once again, we're sorry this wasn't live. It's just that it happened so that the world and technology has schemed its way for us to make sure that this isn't only this is a pre-recorded episode. We'll be back, I think, next week. This week there'll be no FPL episode. It's been a shit week. I don't want to talk about it. We're on an international break. Yeah, it's just been like my captain blank shirt. I'm just going to keep the captain on Salah for the rest of the season and hope for the best. So until then, we'll catch you later. Take care. Stay safe.
Cheers.
Cheers.